Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 20 of the Merry Christmas Ornament tutorial. This is the Merry Christmas ornament that we are making. It is so cute with all its little lights and the Merry Christmas sign. So cute. And today we're going to be making the unit called Top Lights E. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 19 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque black, silver lined green, silver lined light blue, purple lined crystal, and opaque yellow AB. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this black, green, blue, purple, and yellow. We're also going to need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire thread in the color crystal, and this is 4-pound thread. You could also use a 6-pound thread. And then I like to use a size 10 beading needle. If all you have is a size 11 or a size 12, that would work too. For implements, I like to use my long nose pliers to hold on to my thread at the end of the video, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then in the beginning of the video, I'm going to use the fire method to end the tail. We just need to thread our needle with about 3 feet of thread, and then we can get started. So I've threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 3 black beads. Now I'm going to take my 3 beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of my thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Now let's make a square knot. Let's cross over on top and then pull the tail through, and then do that again. Cross over on top and pull the tail through. So now you should have what looks like a little snowman, 2 loops. Let's put our 2 fingers in the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then I'm going to pull on the tail thread and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Now I'm going to take my tail and I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I'm going to get it super duper close so it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this teensy little knot. Now, keeping my 2 fingers in that loop, I'm going to pull on the long thread while I'm twisting the loop with my fingers until that little knot on the end of the tail touches the long thread. Just like that. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and pull that knot down to the 3 beads until the beads turn into a tight little teeny triangle. And that completes row number 1. So you'll notice that the knot is right in between these 2 beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the thread and tug it to one side until it looks like that knot is coming out of one bead, and it also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead. So now we're ready to pick up our next 2 beads. Let's pick up 2 black beads. Now it looks like our thread is coming out of this bead, so we're going to sew through the one that it's not coming out of. Then I'm going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of the beads that they're closest to. I like to call those their buddy beads. So the two new ones are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up two more black beads, and we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next bead. And once again, let's try to get those beads to sit right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one blue bead and one black bead. And we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next, and then let's also sew through the buddy below it. When we're sewing through two beads, that means that we are stepping up and putting our thread in position to start the next row. So that means that we've completed row number 2 and we are ready to start row number 3. Let's start by picking up two green beads and sew through the next. And now let's pick up one black bead, and we're coming out of this second bead right here, the black one, and you'll notice that the next bead is set downward a bit. We're going to skip that downward bead and we're going to sew through the one that's poking up. I like to call that the up bead. Now let's pick up two black beads and sew through the next. Always making sure that our beads are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one blue bead. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up one blue and one black and sew through the next. And now let's pick up one black bead. This is the last bead in this row. So we're going to skip the down bead, we're going to sew through the up bead and its buddy. So that's the last two beads in the row. And that completes our row number 3. Let's start row number 4. Let's start by picking up two black beads and now we'll pick up one green and sew through the up, one black and sew through the up, two black beads and sew through the next, one green and sew through the up, one blue and sew through the up, one green and one black and sew through the next, one black and sew through the up, and one black and sewing through those last two beads, and now we get to start row number 5. Let's start with two black beads then one black 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 green, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 green and 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 green, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 black and 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black and 1 yellow, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, one black, one black, one black, one green, and one purple. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now if you notice, we are actually at the top of our triangle. Now because this is one of our top tiers, this is the top lights, this is right where the ornament cap is going to be. So we're not going to get this triangle any taller, but we are going to get it wider. So in order to continue to sew along the sides, we're just going to, without picking up any beads, we're going to just sew through that next bead. And that puts our thread in position to start row number 8. So let's start with one black, one black, one green, one green, one black, one black, oops, one green and one yellow, one yellow, one black, one black, one black, one black, one black, two black beads, one green, one black, one black, one black, one purple, and one purple. And here we are back at the top of our triangle. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to turn our triangle over. And now we are in position to start sewing down this row or this side, starting row number 9. So let's start row number 9 with one black bead, one purple, one green, one black, one black, one black, one black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, and 1 black. Now you'll notice there's no up bead to sew this last bead through. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our needle around and sew down that first top bead. And then we're going to make sure that our new bead sits in place where it's supposed to be. Now we're coming out of the bottom of this bead, so let's sew down the bead right below it. And then we're going to change directions. We're coming out of the bottom of this bead. Let's sew up the bead right next to that one. And now we can sew up that first bead again. And down the new bead that we just added. Now our thread is in position to start adding beads along the side. So I'm going to flip over my triangle because I'm very right-handed and I like to sew this way, clockwise. So let's start row number 10 with 1 black bead, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 2 black beads, 1 yellow, 1 yellow, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 purple, and 1 purple. Once again, let's turn our unit over, and now we can begin sewing down this side. Starting row number 11 with 1 black bead, then 1 purple, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 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 1 yellow, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 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 and 1 black. And once again, we don't have a up bead to sew through, so we're going to sew down that first top bead and put our new bead right in place. Now we're going to sew down the bead right below it. It's the center bead in that second row. And now, turning directions, we're going to sew up the bead right next to the one we're coming out of, and then up that center bead in on the top row, and then down the new bead that we just added. Turn our triangle over And now we're ready to start row number 12. Let's start by adding one black bead, then one black, one black, one green, one black, one black, one green, one black, two black beads, one black, 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 two black beads, one black, one black, one green, one black, one black, one black, one green, and one black. And that completes our 12 rows. Let's turn our triangle over. If this is the first triangle that you've done with me, I always add connection beads on the sides. Sometimes one side will get it, but another side will not. So in this particular unit, this side, the right side, is going to have connection beads, and then the bottom side is also going to have connection beads, but the left side right here is not going to have connection beads. We do that so that our units can connect together, and then we can complete our project and make the ornament. So we're going to start this row right here with one black, one black, one black, one black, one black, one black, one green, one black, and one black. Now that we are to the corner, let's add one black bead which caps this corner and turns it into a point. And now we can start adding beads along this side. Let's start with one black bead, one black, 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 and one black. And now we are at the corner, so let's cap it with one black bead, turning it into a point. And now what we're going to do is turn our triangle over, and without picking up any more beads, we're going to just sew up 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I just followed this quadrant line, but you could have picked any bead as long as you're hiding your thread by going through one bead per row. So I ended up in this top bead right here. So I'd like to secure this last bead that we put on. So I'm going to do what I like to call a zigzag. We're coming out of the top of this bead right here. So let's sew down the bead in the opposite direction, the bead right next to the one we're coming out of, and then sew up the bead right next to that one. That zigzag makes our bead a little more secure. So let's sew up 2 more beads, or 2 more rows, and let's do another zigzag. We're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it, and then sew up the bead right next to that one. We're going to sew up 2 more rows, 1 bead at a time. And now I really feel that these last beads that we added are extra secure. They're not going to get loose and fall out. So now it's time to cut our thread. Let's hold onto our thread with our long nose pliers, and then get our scissors as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead, and just snip off the thread. And that completes our unit. We only need 1 of these for the project, so I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.